So the conversation around sexual purity cannot be complete until we get a group of young minds to hear what they have to say about this whole sexual purity thing, the struggles, the reality, what it's actually really like. And I decided to get a group of my friends to sit down and have this conversation. I mean, like, what better way to have it than to have it with these kinds of people? So we'll just start with the introductions with this fine man here, just looking all fresh. Thank you, sir.
You're doing well.
Thank you, sir.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah.
I'm really glad to be here. My name is Otims Okonto.
AKA.
My friends call me Otims. Just Otims.
Are you sure?
Yes, just Otims.
Okay.
Just Otims. Yeah. I'm a man of many doings. One of it is audio, digital audio doings.
Yes,
That's what
sir.
I call it. Yeah. So I think that's enough about me.
Alright. So, Mama, the floor is yours.
Hi everybody.
Hi, so.
I'm really glad I'm here. I'm honored to be here. When you sent me the message, I kept thinking, like, why do I deserve to sit on this panel and talk about this particular issue? Like, I kept deliberating and I almost turned it down because I felt like I wasn't worthy to be here. But I'm really glad I'm here. My name is Zorah Mhembe Iju. The King James, like I would call myself. Almost everybody just called me Zo. Yeah, and then I'm the brand. I mean, I just started that.
Of course.
I don't be cast with
Yes.
I'm very glad to be here. Thank you.
Wura, delicious.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Wura.
I'm really happy to be here. My name is Wura. I'm glad today. Today is here, and it's not just a dream come true for MD. It's a dream come true for me as well. I'm a digital marketer and a baker.
Good evening, everybody. I'm starting to say, guy. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you for the courage to put this out. I'm so proud of you. My name is Luka. I'm an undergraduate student of Natural State University, Kefu, studying psychology. I think for now, it's enough.
The freshman over here.
I think I just realized more and more how dramatic she gets.
Right.
It's really a pleasure for me to be here. Even I would call it a team of honor. My name is Joseph Fadiji. I'm a web developer and content writer. When Maryblessing told me about it, it's actually felt like what's the word I would use? It met me at a point in time where I knew that this was right. It's clicked that, yeah, this is right. So, thank you so much for reaching out.
Thank you guys so much. Okay, so to start this conversation, let's start by asking, why do we even need to have a conversation on sexual purity? Do you think we should have a conversation on sexual purity? So, Zorah, the floor is yours.
Okay. Do I think we should have? Yes, absolutely yes. There's so many reasons why we should have the conversation on sexual purity. When you hear the word sex, the first thing that comes to your mind isn't even the act itself, it's the cringe, the discrimination,
Yes.
the fear, the embarrassment. Why are you embarrassed?
Why?
Like, why? So, like, you're actively doing it or trying to be actively doing it. So why are you embarrassed? And I feel like it is because of the societal stigma associated with this name. It shouldn't be like that. Honestly, it should not be. Because if we fail to talk about sex, we would fail on so many levels. The topic of sexual purity, the topic of sex itself should be had. My mom used to call it the talk. Yeah, and I think she even had it late with me because my mom started telling me about sex when I was in SS2, 3. That was like really, really late. Like, because my brother had the talk with me in SS2. One of my cousins took it upon himself to have a talk with me. He told me how to like change tampons, how to like use like sanitary towels and all of that. And he was a boy, and I really appreciated that he came from somebody like that, and he was very sincere. When we fail to have conversations like this, we are putting our friends, we are putting our family members, we are putting our siblings, we are putting our church community in jeopardy, and we are putting all of them under that umbrella of shame. Sexual purity is a conversation that we're supposed to have with everyone, our family members, our parents, our siblings, people who are older or younger than. We're supposed to have with our friends. But it becomes like a thing of shame when once there's the word sex, everybody's like, oh my god, what's that? Like, why are you cringing?
Why?
And if we fail to have these conversations, a lot of territories are uncharted. Because your friend might be going through abuse, you do not know about it. Your direct, immediate siblings, your younger siblings, your older ones can be going through abuse, serious sexual abuse from familiar people sometimes. And they're scared to talk about it because we've not created the atmosphere, we've not created the community for people to comfortably talk about these things without being judged. So I think we should there's still a window, there's still a window of opportunity to do better. We have time.
Yeah.
At least from where I'm seeing it, I feel like we have a little bit of time to make up for all that we've lost, for all the conversations that we've not had. And I'm not saying just sit down and just start talking about unglorified sex. I'm not saying just sit down and start talking about unglorified sex. There is this particular conversation I was supposed to have it, like for some of us that had it late, and I learned the importance of having it very early, like at a very early stage, so you know what you're supposed to look forward to, what you're supposed to completely avoid. This way, it programs your mind in such a way that you're not ignorant, and you're not getting yourself into trouble or into something that you are not supposed to get into. You're not looking forward to something that is not your business completely at the age that you are, because like there's an appropriate time for it anyway. So while you are growing and being new, you have the knowledge that okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing myself now, and I cannot be filling my mind with thoughts that I don't have any business concerning myself with, because my mom, my sister, my brother, my cousin, like in my case, somebody sat me down and told me this is what this is. And apart from that, even as adults, we are supposed to have like a serious knowledge about it, so that when you are talking, someone knows that okay, this person knows exactly what they're talking about, and they're talking to you from experience. There's when you talk to somebody from experience that they know that if I just take one wrong step.
Yeah.
So I think we should have this conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I think we should have this conversation because nobody got to a point in their life and they said, come, let's inject you with sexual injection.
My God,
Yeah.
I need to judge that girl. Like,
Became programmed with it.
Yes.
In fact, she said something in the introduction of her book. It's just like maths and English. If you fail it, you can't move forward. It's a core subject of life that we must discuss because you have been programmed. So most of us get to that point where we start to, when scientists inject animals and start to give that funny like what's going on. So we get to that point in our life, most of us, where they're like, what's going on with me? Am I normal? And the enemy starts to bring thoughts like, are you sure you're not an abomination? Are you sure you're not weird? Are you sure this is good? Why? Because we don't have good knowledge. And I think you said something that we've been raised with very weak teachings. Yes, very weak. That when you go into the world, when you go into the world to do stuff, when you go on with your life, you literally are clueless. You have no idea. So you are being taught from the perspective of another, which may not always be as it should be. So I think it is a core. It's a core in every human being, even animals.
Wow. Okay. It seems.
So I love what Zorah said, what Wura said, and what I would like to add to that would be we have to have this conversation, not just interpersonally, like with our peers, not just with our younger ones or kids, but we should have it communally. And what I mean by that is if as we are like this, right, we are a community, right? Which means my kids go to the same school your kids go to, go to the same school your kids go to. We are all in the same box, same place, right? And then we have a view on sexuality, right? And how to interpret that to our children, right? Once we have that view, obviously, sometime our kids will grow up and they'll go into the world. When they go into the world, right, they'll meet a different ideology, a different concept, right, that might rival what they have been taught, whatever they have been taught. Now, the problem is that information is coming from people who don't really care about them, who don't know them, right? But we, even if I don't love your kids as much as I love my kids, right?
Yes.
But I have some sort of attachment to your kids, right? So the concept of communal information and communal information on sexuality, that everybody have the same view or similar views about sexuality is very, very important, because it's if your kids are doing bad, it will reflect on me, even if I am not their parents, right? So it's that kind of thing. So I really think we're not supposed to just have this conversation interpersonally and have the conversation with our younger ones or our families or our friends. I think we should have it communally, and that includes things like say church. That includes things like culture, right? So, for example, the Jewish culture, they have a way, and they have a way of raising the male child. They have a particular way of raising the male child, and this male child goes out into the world. And how many Jewish billionaires do we have? They have, yes, top 50, about 25 of them are Jewish, right? So that just shows that they have a communal ideology and concept concerning money. Now, if we can adopt that concerning sexuality, I think the abuse which you spoke of, I think the wrong information which you spoke of, right? Those things will be easily tackled, and it's not just stop at this particular generation. It will just keep rolling off, and whatever we missed that we didn't communicate to them, they will add it to the knowledge and pass it on. And they just
There is a reason why you are
evolving.
kid man. You get why. Isaiah.
Alright, she has said it. Wait to see what she has said. So for me, I think it's very paramount for we as believers, I'm talking about the church in particular, to have this conversation. The church has actually shied away from this particular conversation for too long. And the truth is that if we really don't educate our guys on this topic, I bet the world will actually educate them wrong. So it's really important for churches to start creating platforms for this particular conversation. So, keep listening. Expect drama from her.
So it cannot be overemphasized. That's just the truth. And I especially love what he said and the way he put it in the fact that we are having conversations that span downwards, that they trickle downwards generationally, and it is passed on so that wherever there was a loophole on the floor, we're actually able to correct it and we're able to improve on it eventually. So I think that's very important. There's nothing else to say. That's very important.
Okay, so now that we agree that this is important, right? I want us to talk about our experiences in navigating this journey. Like, what has it really been like? Who's gonna go?
Well, let me go first. Let me go first. So for me, I especially love what you did in the book because it was a journey, right? The book was a journey, and chapter 1, chapter 2, I found myself in chapter 1, chapter 2, and I got all that, right? But chapter 3 was something new for me, right? It was something new for me. So it was as if it was an addition to my journey so far. And hopefully more will get added on.
Yes.
More will get added on. So my journey so far has been not just, because when you say sexual, when you just use the word sexual, everybody thinks physical. The first place, you're talking about cringing, right? So the reason why people cringe is simple, is because it is not just physical, it is actually mental. It is mental. So the moment somebody just says sexual, what happens is something gets triggered in your mental, in your mind, right? So it's actually in your mind. So my journey has been, I will say, purification of the mind and being able to tame the mind and make my mind function in a particular way. So one of my goals in life is to be able to look at, I'm a guy. So look like, I'm a guy.
You're a guy.
Yeah, me.
Yes.
So look at a beautiful, naked woman and say with all sincerity.
Sorry, did you see a beautiful
Say with all sincerity, while looking at her, and say, oh, God tried. Like that kind of purity in the mind, that is not, my mind will not bend to something perverse at all. The first thing is like, are you cold? Like, that should be my first.
Wow. Okay now. Okay.
It comes down to actually the mind, right? So we're in a world where people dress the way they want to dress. There's so much freedom right now. In the days of our fathers and our grandfathers, the amount of freedom.
Dearest that.
You can't dress like that. Exactly. There's nothing like mini rapper. So God bless our mothers. Yeah. So but now you just step out of your house and you see things. I mean, you're a guy. You're a guy. Right? So the first thing has to be your mind. So I think my journey so far has been the renewing of mind. If I should put it biblically, it has been renewing of mind, because I have to learn, and I am still learning to think properly and handle the information that is being force-fed to me, and interpreting them in a very, 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 very
I'm going to come back to this because you have to help us. You have to help us. Like, are you cold? Where are you cold? Okay, so are you cold? Like, okay. So this topic, I've struggled with this thing for, honestly, let me get very serious now. I've come a long way. But I've had a very difficult time. And
honestly, I'm not the kind of person to, but before I would know, no, but I like sometimes it's just the experiences I had as a child while growing up, like they shaped me in such a way that this was a what do you call it? Like I had all the wrong informations. I was privy to the wrongest things while growing up, the form of abuse and molestation that I had to go through as a child. So it basically meant nothing to me for a very long time. I mean, I could see the guilt. I could see why, yeah, it's bad. But so if somebody did it to me as a child and I had absolutely no clue what it was, what's the point anymore? Do you get? But in the long run, I've had to go through healing. Like I'm one of those people that sometimes I'm not even doing it for the pleasure. I'm just doing it for the gratification. Like not see me as a cool person per se, but for acceptance. Because there's some relationships you get in nowadays that when you propose celibacy, somebody's looking at you like, it's this one dog. And I mean, sometimes they can agree with you and be like, okay, fine, let's be celibate. But they are celibate with you. And you're celibate with them. But they're like rascals to the whole world. So, and then if you don't want to lose such a person, you have to give in almost every other time. And coming from that background, and like I said, when you're unable to even talk about it because people will look at you and be like, oh, I'm embarrassed on your behalf. when it happens like that, you just give it up for the. It's no, you're not doing it for money. You're just doing it for acceptance. For somebody to accept you and to take you for who you are. Up until last year, that was how it was until I came to a place of realization. There was a time I realized that, man, I can't pray as effectively as I want to. My life cannot be as effective as I want it to be unless this thing is put on a leash. Do you understand? And then it started with like the entire process of renewing my mind. And my mind is like so creative with these things. You can just say one word, and my mind has like created like an entire scenario in my head. Do you understand? So I'm having to go through this process of renewing my mind, and then the Bible scripture, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of the mind. So like it's happening all the time, and now all my friends know that you can't even accuse me of anything, because honestly, all my friends now know that if you just forget this, so I just doing more lifestyle. And it's not been easy. I'm honestly going to put it out there. It's not been easy, and future me, if I were to say this, listen, 3 days ago we struggled, but we made it through, and we were very proud of ourselves for struggling and making it through. And for women, right? Let's be sincere. We know that guys say we are guys, but for women, honestly, we are women. And it happens very, very, very differently. You will not believe. Especially when you are approaching like your period, especially like your hormones start raging. See, they start coming. Everything you can look at food, and just your mind will just get all fuzzy, and then just food. You can look at ice cream. You can look at your pillow. You can look at I'm trying to be as open as I can be, because we all need this conversation. You can look at like your pillow, and it will just set your mind in a particular, and you have to constantly remind yourself, okay, it's the hormones, man. This normal with me. I'm straight. Just carry your phone and check. You see that you're like a week 2. that time of the month.
That's
And then you're like, okay, so this is definitely the hormones speaking. And then I have to constantly remind myself about intimacy with the Holy Spirit. And there are some particular gifts that I have that is just a drop of impurity. It will just mess it up. And so now it's left for me to wait. It's there for me to wait. Pros and cons, like, do you want this gift? Imagine God promising you are going to be among his council of elders. But the only thing that's going to make you to not be able to sit in that council is this particular issue. So you now have to put it on a scale, like, do I want to be
small chops.
Do I want small chops? Or do I want like a buffet at the end of the day? Like, do I want small chops or a buffet? And small chops, like, that is gratifying at the point. But like, you know that once you've had these small chops, before you walk to the road,
My God.
before you walk to the road, you're hungry again. Do you understand?
Yeah.
But if you go for the buffet, you know, I can eat, I can do takeaway, I can pack the bones for my dog, and the remaining small things I can buy for my cat.
Oh,
Do you get?
okay.
And you have fridge, so you just put the remaining things in your fridge, and you can eat it another day. Do you understand? So I've had to go through this process, and let me tell you, it's not easy. I'm not even going to sit down here and lie. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so suffering. And sometimes we fall. You have to, every time you get to a point where you are thinking about it, or even when you fall, get up. Don't wallow. Don't wallow. Don't ever wallow. God doesn't hate you. God will never hate you. So don't wallow. You hate yourself because that's what the devil wants you to think. You're not a terrible person. You falling. Get up. Get up. Every time you fall, remember Peter.
Yeah.
Every time you fall, remember Peter and say the same prayer. Lord have mercy. Just remember Peter and just get up, pick yourself up and move. Just always remember buffet, small chops. Okay, now I trust it.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much Zoe, for that. Like, wow. Wura,
Like this is a whole meal.
Yeah.
Like appetizer, like it's a feast, honestly. Tonight is just a feast. Like, so I just have 4 things to add. So
Wow.
hey.
I'm here with my notepad.
So from all they've said, I just have 4 things. I remember while I was a child, to know how sacred our parents held this topic we're talking about sex, right? They knew when to talk about it, but there was this story I heard one time that there was this lady, she went to the university and mom told her, if you guys just do like this,
That is good.
so they what they're trying to do is to communicate to us, right? But not do it in such a way that they felt probably we won't get it totally, but they just wanted to do it in a decent way. I think I'll use that word. So recently, while I was like this year, I was just in the office now. I don't know what we're talking about, and then I remember how while as a child, I really didn't experience any assault as a child, but I don't know why. Every time there's this particular uncle, maybe it was just my spirit discerning, and every time this uncle would come and say my wife, I will cringe. The same way you say sex, I will just cringe. So anytime I see him coming from afar, I'll just follow the other road. I just did not like the sight of that. And this brings me to a point, the next point I want to make. This world is sexually charged already. So, and it's still bringing back to what Otims said. So, you really need to learn how to think properly, because everything is showing you it's really, and I've been asking this question, why is it so easy to imagine even things like, oh man, I will fall off this bike now. The way this bike they drive, I will fall. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So I asked myself why, and it's because of what is around us. The energy in this world is really negative. So you must learn how to think properly. And then it brings me to another point. You see your company.
Yes.
I've realized while many parents intrude, African parents will intrude into your room, your phone, your space. They want to know everything. Why? They felt that that's the control they can give you, right? So for me, one of my major struggles that helped me in this journey is my company. I remember I had my own fair share of this struggle while I was much younger, and every day I would say, God, just what you wrote at the beginning of the introduction blew my mind. And I found myself from there. And I had just fallen into the state of pornography.
Yes.
So I remember I could literally count to almost 100, if not more. I'll say, God, this is the last time. Last time syndrome. And honestly, from a very young age, I had known that I had a walk with God. See, I couldn't explain it to you. It was so serious, right? I left children's church at about 13, 14. Why? I just knew that they were feeding me milk and I was supposed to be eating it. And I didn't even have a work week, like serious one. There was no serious, just the what I heard from church, you get. And I left. My Sunday school teacher saw me and drew my ear, and I was really disappointed because they couldn't discern what was going on with me at that age. And I knew that thing really, it was a landmark for me. So it made me really tell God that, see, I really want to work with you, but there's no help. Nobody is saying anything, nobody is teaching me. So I kept falling. And like Maryblessing would say in her book, God said, let me teach you. So for me, it wasn't so much like that, but I remember God put a prayer on my lips. That's to tell me that God doesn't hate you. And what was this prayer? God, I want friends that will draw me closer to you. I didn't even know what I was saying. I just knew I was just uttering that prayer for a very long time. And mind you, I had certain disabilities while I was small. So one of them was I had blue legs, and then I had affiliations with boy, very close bond. Like there are times in the year where I'll just wake up, my eye will be swollen. And I'm like, God, who wants to be near somebody like this? What kind of life is this? So I literally didn't have friends, and I felt it was God's way and system of preserving me from certain things, really. So when I went through all the whole stuff, I always had one friend that they were always a dormer. And I think one of them were called Ene or something. They always had that name. And they would so love me. And I literally could feel God's love. I couldn't just say it was God. They would teach me, they would help me, they would do stuff for me. And that was it for me from while I was a little child. You get coming out of rejection, coming out of a lot. And so entering into this issue of sex, this sexual thing, and I think as I kept praying that prayer, one day I got admission into the Polytechnic, and I met somebody who I'm presently in a relationship with.
Celebrate the Lord!
One of the first things we did, I remember we were getting close, and we would do night calls, we would pray on the phone, he would counsel me and stuff. And one night, the Holy Spirit told me, he said, so I will tell him, and he's going to help you. And I'm like, so you want to expose him? And he's like, he didn't say anything, but I felt that peace. I will not embarrass you. It's not in my nature. And so the next day he called and we prayed, and he's like almost dropping the call. He's like, okay, I felt this stuff, this nudge in my heart, like you're struggling with this, and honestly God had, and this is my point, to be forewarned is to be forearmed. That is your mind. Again, going back, that you must learn to think properly. Everything that helps you think properly, hold on to it so tight. Yeah. And you know what happened? He prayed for me that night. That thing broke. That was the end. But see what he did. To be forewarned is to be forearmed. He took me and began to teach me. He said, these things will come back. The feelings will come back. The urges will come back. But this is what you have to do. You must remember who you are. You are not a slave to this thing anymore. I tell you, I struggled. Do you know, there were times where we had passed, I was doing well, but suddenly those thoughts would come again. And what did I notice? I noticed there were things around me that were pointing me back. So the Holy Spirit helped me, I saw it. I began to get rid of them. And honestly, we've been good. And we've been breaking more chains and bondages ever since.
So at this point, I'm like, God, you didn't care. As in, send me your son, Father, send me your son. Let me pray with
How many songs?
Okay, Isaiah.
Alright, I don't need stuff. Normally, I don't really say what I'm to share, but then we are changing the narrative.
Yes.
Yeah, we are changing the narrative, the right way to do things. So, me personally, that's really been a huge struggle for me, this whole sexualpurity thing. I've struggled. Or I struggled, sorry, I'm not there anymore. Yeah. So I'm going to share two very important stories. Then I just okay. Like I said, I'm sharing this number because I've gone through healing. He has totally healed me. God has totally healed me. And most guys won't really say this. You know, we get to one of the reasons why, okay, when we talk about sexual purity and no, let me say abuse, let's start from there. When we talk about abuse most times in our society, we normally don't see it like guys also abuse. And so many guys that abuse don't say it because of the stigma. Yeah. Oh, if a guy is abused, obviously most times it's their fellow guys that abuse them. So most guys don't really say it outside because of the stigma. But like I'm saying, we are changing the narrative. So I'm going to say it. So I got into that very tender, not tender age precision, but then there was no education regarding sexual purity thing, and no elder brother, my dad, work, come back when he wants, and the next day in the morning he's going out and stay at sleep or something. So when that was like just one, I was in boarding school, and then I was abused basically. And then that was when my struggle started for me. And then there was nobody to talk to. Because this thing I'm saying, God, I know my dad will watch this. Yeah, I've never heard him this one. Yes. I'm so proud. Thank you. So I was actually abused, and then no once, no twice, and there was nobody. There was really nobody to talk to. I went through that phase all by myself. Let's drop that one. This is where I want to really focus. Okay, masturbation. I went into this unknowingly, like I said. There was no education. So the school I went to, normally guys take their baths the same place. And then I saw one of my seniors masturbating, and I followed. And that was how it started for me. I struggled. I really struggled with it. And like for me, I really met mentors that time too. More those pastors, like in Macaulay, I grew up in Macaulay. So there's this pastor that is into this sexual blah blah blah. So I told him, oh, sir, this is what I'm going to do. He gave me books. I read nothing happened. Nothing happened. So I was talking to somebody in school one day, and she was like, the best person to test such things is God. And the truth is that most times we should be real to God, but then we aren't real to Him. We are more real to our fellow humans. Why they really, most times if you check it, they really have nothing to offer us in those situations. So what I did that helped me and changed everything. Anytime I masturbate, I always tell God, Papa, if you let me for this thing will kill me. And I just kept on, like I was so very guy. Help me for this situation. This thing will kill me, and I know say it will be your plan for me with this straight up. And then like that, I discovered that 1 week, 2 weeks. So basically, be to God more than any other person.
Give my guy a hand.
Okay. Hallelujah. Sorry.
came out.
I mean, no, it is
It is-
strong.
Yeah. I think back a couple of times. I try to remember what it was like growing up for me, because sometimes there's events don't exactly stick with me that well. Nonetheless, there are things that I do remember vividly, and I think those are the things that I will be sharing. So, the way it is, I think we've spoken about community or friendship, and for me it was fun. It was 10 at the time, just 2, and somebody just brought a phone to school. Then I saw my friends all holding together, like, what are you guys doing? Then they will say it's at that moment he knew. That's kind of like how it was. But what was even funny or strange or surprising was that about 7 years passed after that time, and there was still that consistent struggle just pornography. Then one day, another can of worms opened, and then I found out that people actually do stuff while watching pornography. Then it was like everything has turned into it was terrible. Basically, like you thought it was bad, then you hit rock bottom, and then you understand what it's like when you're like, God, do I even deserve to be alive? That those kind of moments. So genuinely it was a struggle. I can remember that shortly after she was getting introduced to pornography, I had a very, very, very hard time looking at a lady normal. Practically. Like, I mean, you are passing and I'm gone. Like I don't know. And during my undergraduate time, I just noticed that this thing wasn't even happening much, and the reason why was actually just because I was busy.
Yes.
That was all. I was just busy. Once I go out to school, I'm not back till like 10. So I'm at work all day. I'm busy, basically. And then that point will come when I go on holiday. Then I'll experience the worst parts of my life, because during that time I'm at home doing nothing. I am in my feelings throughout and thoughts. In fact, that was the time when I would daydream scenarios. You guys understand what I mean?
Yeah.
I would daydream scenarios. I would give it plots. I was a good writer. Yes, I would give it plots and everything. So eventually, after a while, I noticed that this is not helping. That even being alone is not helping. Genuinely, I did not really talk to people about it at all. I simply tried to pay attention to some of the, should I say, principles I heard from messages. And it's like Otims started really in the head, renewal of mind. A point came when I began to, should I say, see people. One of the trainings I had during my undergraduate period consciously was the training of value. So I did not enter into any relationship during my undergraduate period. And part of the reason why was because I got this training that what are you doing in a relationship? Are you trying to just gratify that sexual stuff? And if you are not, and you are saying, the relationship, you will build people and you do this, I actually began to do those things without being in a relationship, without strings attached. So since I was able to begin to see people from a point of view of value, where I began to honor and love them, I placed them on a pedestal. So like I said, I'm good at creating scenarios. So I would create a scenario that in my mind you would not accept me because you believe in God so much. So with that, I kept on breaking, I kept on building these walls that, it's not possible. It's not possible. That's why I kept telling myself, I built a wall of it's not possible, it's not possible. So eventually I got to that point where I see people with value that she's beautiful. You see a lady and you're like, she's beautiful, and somebody will be like, I beg, please don't be saying this made in image kind of thing. Don't use that one to do church for us. I'm like, yeah, she's fine. I know what attracts me. Yes, I agree. But my mind is not going there. I can genuinely tell you that I've gotten to that point. I'm so happy that I've gotten to that point. In fact, people, we were having a conversation earlier, and when we were talking about how they say nice people are always going to be scared of
Yes.
So when I walk into a room, and people are talking, perhaps, and then they're talking about, ladies, guys talking about ladies, and I'm like, okay, I get that, and people see my reaction, they're like, this guy is fake, why are you deceiving me, why are you trying to form church? And genuinely for me, the truth, in fact, the way it is that there's also corrupt communication, media, and things like that. And genuinely, my mind has been so schooled that I don't see it from that way. I see it as the innocent point of view. It took a while, but I got there.
Yes.
I still have struggles, even up to now.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie, I still have struggles.
Yes.
But the innocence of taking things like that is such that honestly God has helped me. The friends that surrounded me during my undergraduate and even up till now, our communication was pure. So when I go out and I hear people talking about things like that, I don't even giggle, I don't even laugh, because in my mind I'm like, oh, did you mean anything by
Wow.
my knowledge knows that you meant something bad.
Yes.
But my reaction has been so trained that it's the mind of a child to those things. Whereas you might have said it, I won't even give you a reaction because you don't know that I know what you meant. So people would think he doesn't know what just went down. But in my mind, I'm like, I wouldn't even use this information for anything. So I'm excited. And that has been a salvation for me.
Wow.
Now, the struggle, let me now talk about, the past month or the past 2 months.
Yeah.
The struggle has now arisen where it's like, okay, should I say, people are now aware that I'm aware of things. This time around, I can't hide anymore, really. And on the basis of that, it's now like those conversations are had more loudly. It's coming back. That's kind of like what I mean. It's harder now. It's taking a new form now because it's like the perversion wants to come back. Everybody is making it loud in your hearing, and you can't really hide under the banner of, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. Nonetheless, I always try to still come around this point of view that, oh, okay, you said this, but I don't spend my time or allow my mind to dive deep into whatever you have said. Okay, you said it, let it pass. I'm not staying in that point of view, I'm not staying in that energy. In fact, that has been a real salvation for me. That's you're having a renewed mind, you're surrounded by people who also don't have filthy communication.
Yes.
Yet you can still be real with them.
Yes. Yes.
Very important.
Yes.
Very, very, very important.
I just wanted to say one thing that. So imagine we all spoken about personal struggles. So imagine two people with struggles coming together, making the mess. Very terrible because when you get into a relationship, there is still going to be that. It will come, those challenges will come. So imagine two people that have not dealt with it, coming together to make even people who have dealt with it, like he said, if you don't continually renew the environment has that tendency to put things in your face again and again. So you need to keep at it. Wow. The whole meal.
I wanted to add something to what he was saying. So he spoke about scenarios, like making scenarios, and then he was raising up walls, right? Which I would interpret as other scenarios to counter these other scenarios. So there was a time for me was like, okay, fine girl, all right. You won't pick a problem. If it's just that, just it's like, are you ready to take responsibility? I think having the mind, right, to take responsibility. And if you're out there, you're thinking, I don't have the mind to take responsibility, right? It's simple. Start with something small and grow with it, I'm growing with it, I'm growing with it, I'm growing with it. And then you begin to see things in a responsible way. Okay, if I'm to make it more practical, right? If you are thinking, okay, if you have probably, because one of the questions I've been asking, right? Because all of us, you can see we came from the African background, right? And the basic African background is sexual purity is emphasized. The basic African background, right? So what about people that are from other backgrounds where sexual purity is not emphasized? You understand that kind of background? That means there's no wall. There's nothing built in you to make you feel like, yo, this is wrong, right? So I think the next step would be creating the mindset which you can develop yourself. First and foremost, you have to make that agreement with yourself, and that mindset is responsibility, taking responsibility. So that means if I sleep on my bed today, I should be ready to make the bed tomorrow. Because I am going to, I slept on the bed today, I should be ready to make the bed tomorrow, right? I'm eating with the dishes, I should be ready to wash the dishes, right? I mean, food is awesome, we love food, but we should be ready to wash the dishes, right? So,
Actually, like we're using metaphors.
If we translate that sexually, right? I know it's a sexual purity, right? It's you and the person, individual in particular, that is the center, right? But it involves different elements, right? So, for example, he said there was a time which it was same for me, right? A lady. Your mind go. So a responsibility in the sense that if you know your mind will go like that, you will have to raise these walls, which is a counter scenario, which is like, okay, it's okay. Yeah, let's say something happens. Am I ready for what comes after? Nah. Something comes after. And another part of it is that this lady which you are daydreaming about, right? She's a full human being, meaning she has her own space, her own reality, her own full life, very full life, and daydreams. Exactly. So if you go and interrupt that, you have to take responsibility for interrupting that. I hope that makes sense. So it's the taking of responsibility, and this is something I know from practice that you can start step by step. You don't just have to start and say, I'm not doing it. I don't think I can take responsibility for a child or for a pregnancy or something like that, right? You don't just have to jump to that level. You could start very simple. I sleep in my bed. I have to make it. Rule, fact of life. Make yourself accountable. Just make yourself and count on yourself to be accountable. Hold yourself accountable. I think with that little practice, right, you come to the point where you realize that every person going around you, walking around you, and that will also help you to mind when you talk. Because he was talking about being in the company of people that have filthy language, right? So when you begin to grow this culture of accountability, you now realize that my words have implications. Because I can say something, it just hits your head. You don't know. It just goes in and go out. But that thing, before it came out, it laid eggs. Right? So the person will just take it and go home and incubate it. And 2 weeks from now, to just hatch. And who is the cause? You are. And because you know you have experienced this before, so you are responsible. You now hold yourself responsible not to transmit that. So I'm still talking about taking responsibility. As little as it may sound, it's very, very life-altering, not just for yourself, but also for the people around you, especially for the people around you.
My heavenly God. Wow. Okay.
Wow.
What's happening here?
Like,
I really love the way this conversation has gone, because we've literally done the beginning and end together, in the sense that we've provided problem and solution at the same time. And I just really want to first of all appreciate our level of vulnerability. And just like Isaiah said, changing the narrative. Having these conversations actually makes it normal for people to talk like this. And just hearing people just go deep and share deep struggles. For me, my own experience, it all started with the fact that I didn't have a relationship with my parents in terms of they were around but they were not around. And I have siblings who are way older than me. So I grew up in an environment where there were a lot of older people, which means that I had to mature quickly. And I'm a very independent person. I love the thrill of being able to take care of myself. But at the same time, I love emotional support. Like, why do we say, okay, because you're independent, well, you have to take care of yourself, and then everybody just abandons you. So I was literally abandoned because it just assumed she hasn't figured out. She can sort herself out. And at the same time, too, my own parents are coming from a generation where they've had their fair share of issues. So for them, it's like, this thing is not even like, okay, being present, taking children to school. As all those things are not things for them. And like I said, I was born in a time when they had really aged. So they didn't really have the strength to be able to provide that environment for me. So I was exposed to just being very wild. There were times where, like, okay, someone would be in the house, and this was very funny because I didn't even know what I was doing until later on. I now started talking about it, and I was like, oh, okay, this is what it is. Like, that's the meaning. And it wasn't even with a guy, it was we were playing drama. It's drama that we play. We would start to play drama, and then my parents would have, like, because we lived in an academic environment, so they would have meetings and all of that, and their children would come. And we play this drama that was playing. I would play, and then that was how it progressed. And then, like I said, for me, my own struggle was not even with pornography because I had a very creative mind. So I didn't see the need to be watching porn. Like, my mind would do the job for me. It would do the job for me. And it was really because I liked, okay, two things now. I really loved the idea of secrecy in the sense that I'm the kind of person that I want my personal space at the same time I want people. So I want both worlds. So I like the fact that I get to have me alone and then me and other people. And now, like, literally the Holy Spirit has transformed that negative skill into something very powerful. Because what I did was I enjoyed the power of secrecy, that's one. Two, I loved manipulation as it is a game for me. I just love the fact that I can come in and play a game on somebody's head and just, you would literally be like, she can't do this. I just love the thrill of making people surprised. I don't know why, but that was me. So, and then I think I learned it from playing on my parents' head. So, because they're not noticing me, they're not looking at me because they feel she's fine, she can do herself. So I knew how to navigate trouble, and my parents are very, very disciplined people. So I saw my other siblings get into trouble, and I was like, I'm not going down this road with you people. So I studied my parents. I knew how to know, and I think it just stopped. So I learned how to really go unnoticed and do my thing, and then that now progressed into the fact that I started to experience loneliness. In the sense that when you literally live your life alone, like there are people around you, but you've isolated yourself from the world, and you're in this whole world. It's like, okay, it's getting bored. Like, it's getting bored in here. We are people, and then when I finally stepped out and I started relating with people, I just realized I didn't fit. As in, I didn't fit because I've worked my mind, I manipulated my mind to the sense that I would do evil and be feeling like good. I'll be having good feelings about evil. Like, I don't know if that makes sense. That was how bad it went. So I'll be having, I was just like, okay, for me, like, and I grew up in a free environment, so there weren't clear lines, honestly. So I was just like, okay, but then I started to meet people, and I would literally manipulate people in relationships, and then I started to feel bad about it. Like, I just started to feel bad. And then the thing is, my relationship with God was I always saw God as a G. I always felt like there's somebody over my shoulder. That is the kind of relationship I had with God. So and that's why I enjoyed being alone, because I didn't feel like I was alone. So I was the kind of Christian who would see a place God and I'll come back to him. I can't really, I just, it's like, I don't fear you. That's how I got to, I don't fear what I'm doing. So I will tell you I've done it, do your worst, that kind of thing. So I always ran back to God. And like I said, it was a lonely environment. And he never pushed me away. He never made me feel like, it just never. And then coming back to community, I got into secondary school, and that was a game changer for me because I met amazing people. My chaplain, who was like my spiritual father, shout out to him. He was literally God's messenger to me, because if that God did not save me, havoc. And the thing is, I would go on meetings you wouldn't know. So it was like, I think God just literally said, see, you have to save this girl's life. If not, he do things and we will not be happy. So he literally brought me through the process, and even in his mentoring and fathering of my life, he never made me feel like, because I'll come back and cry and feel bad about it. But then I started to realize that I started to ask questions, because my major issue was the fact that they always say it's not possible. It's not possible. How? How do you want to be married? It's not lying, and that kind of thing. It's not possible. So I always felt like, but why, if you said it, then it's possible. So why are they saying it's not possible? That was what started going. And then I was literally feeling frustrated, because I now started to struggle with sleep. So sleep was my escape. I didn't have vices. I didn't smoke. I didn't do all of those things. But what I used to do is I escape from life. And when I want to escape, sleep it off. I can literally sleep a whole day. And my family members, they raised a trophy for me, because I literally slept like, I slept, I think, 18 hours straight up. I was just sleeping. And the more I sleep, the more I want to sleep. So that was my escape for me, because I didn't want to deal with the pressure of family, what was going on. I didn't like the people around me, so I wanted to escape from that. So I started to struggle with sleep issues. I started to struggle with sluggishness. I became very slothful, very lazy in my mind. It was just really, really bad for me. So when I started to ask these questions, and it all came in like it just came in a big ball of guilt, because at the same time, I was starting to learn how to navigate life in terms of, okay, what do you want to do in terms of career? So I was on that quest, in quotes, to finding a purpose in terms of career. What do you want to do with your life? And in the process, God literally dragged me into this conversation of purity. And I joined a coaching program, immerse coaching. That was actually it. Shout out to my coach, DDK. And DDK just literally, that was the game changer. And this was exactly like a year ago, last year, when this all started. And for me, I don't fear God, as in terms of, I'm not afraid to ask questions. I'm not afraid to say things. Like, in fact, there are certain times when, like, you know, when it's about to happen, the Holy Spirit is saying, don't do that. I would say, and literally, okay, he used to say, walk out of the room and take fresh air. Because, and my own was, it was now people that were my triggers. So there are certain people that I would just like be around, and I just know that this is going to stop. So it was like, you say, take a walk outside. I know it to go. But then I'll just be like, I'm angry because I've asked you for this thing, you didn't give me, I feel lonely. And I'll literally do it to spite God. Like, I'll literally do it to say, and that's literally me. And I'm like, and then 2 days after, I'm like, oh, Father, I'm so, but you know I love you, I'm sorry. You know I love you. So, when I now started to work on this journey of asking questions, and like I said in the book, God literally said, because I was crying that night, and I was literally joking and saying, God. And then he just said, allow me to teach you. Allow me to teach you. And that was where I now started to really like work on this. And then the first thing he told me was the fact that, do you realize that I'm married? That was the first thing he said. Do you realize that we are in a marriage relationship? And this is not figure of speech. And we are married. So let's start having this, like let's start analyzing this like a marriage relationship. If you're married to somebody, how is it going to be? First of all, imagine not talking to your husband. That's the first thing. Imagine not, and I think that's what it means by the fear of God. In the sense that the fear of God is an acknowledgement of who He is. So it's like acknowledging that somebody did hear me. It's not that somebody is actually here. It's just like if you see pastor now, there's a certain way you change because you just realize that is around. That's the fear of the Lord, and that fear does not come from, because if I didn't know who He was, who is this? But it comes from an understanding, because it's not just I know Him. I now understand the implications of what I'm doing around Him. So it's like the fear of God is like, oh, I now understand that. I understand who you are. And so for me, I was not trying to beat a record of 3 compliments I'm not following. Oh, thank you, Lord. I literally just wanted to make God happy, because I had realized that I've fallen in love with something. And what I realized is, to just cap this up, is the fact that the main reason why we have to not have sex while we're single is because this sexuality thing is achieving multiple purposes at the same time. So he needs to be able to filter the effects of each one of them at different points in time, so that you can see the significance at different points in time. So at a certain point in time, sexuality is great for creating a bond between people. At a certain point in time, sexuality is important in helping you fall in love with things that you don't want to do. Because I don't know if you've read this book, Atomic Habits by James Clear. You can't form a habit. You can't do anything you don't like. So the best way to form a habit is to make it pleasurable, make it something you like. That's the function of sexuality. That's the concept of pleasure. It's that God wants to be able to teach you how to use your sexuality to train you in different areas of your life. Then lastly, sexuality is supposed to help you with purpose, which is the major thing that He wants to achieve. And that's why He was saying that, like, when He got busy, he wasn't thinking about it, because it's one channel, If something is occupying it, no other thing can enter. He got busy with life that he stopped thinking about it. So it now makes me understand that, okay, so this thing that we say is reaching. He was not literally thinking about it. So that means it's not that, as in, it's not that hard as you are saying. If you can actually live, you didn't die. Guy, you did not die. You did not die. You survived it. So it's one channel where it's like your purpose is on the same channel with your sexuality. So what he wants is and the idea is, if you get so carried away with purpose, you literally, that's satisfaction. Like you've gotten so focused, because the idea is we're not supposed to be thinking about, we're not supposed to be dependent on human beings. And here's what I would say. It's like investments, high risk and low risk. Human beings they are high risk investments. So you can't put your savings in high risk into startup. Human beings are made from soil, which means we are messy. Human beings get messy, we're messy people. So you can't afford to put something so delicate on a human being. They will disappoint you. It's normal thing as is expected. So the idea is, he wants to be your baseline, he wants to be your anchor. So that every other thing now starts to come like secondary. And what has happened to me is, I dance at the still road. Like my eye is sharp, because now I'm not dependent. I'm literally not looking for anything. I don't care about, I don't care what you're saying. I'm not literally looking at you for my first point of survival. It's like a child and a mother. So, and if you look at babies, when they are sucking breasts, don't even come there. They don't send any. You just see them throwing their leg in the air. They're having a good time, because that's their source. So I can now process human beings from a logical point of view, because I've taken away the emotion. My emotions are being taken care of by God. I can vent to God. I can literally be anyhow I want to be before Him. So when I come to human beings, I've filtered off those layers that make a relationship very messy. So it's logical now. I cannot say, this guy did this thing to me. Normal me before I would have been feeling, oh, why did he do this to me? It doesn't mean I'm not doing that. But now I can just look at you and say, they beat you too much in your childhood. That's why. That's why
No, that one.
That's why. And then I can forgive. I can forgive people because now I can actually. It's just like when let's talk about money because money is very sensitive. So imagine if you're starting a business from ground zero, you'll be very emotional about that business. Your negotiations will be very emotional because that's your means of survival. And it's like if I don't get my paid, so you're not even thinking about delivery value, all those things, value, opportunity. You're not thinking about it because you're this is my means of survival. I will not eat food if I don't get paid. So I'm ready to do anything. But what happens maybe if you have another source of income and then this business is just free will, this NGO, I'm just doing it for this. Now you can see clearly and process things. You can now say, okay, let's do it this way. You can even take risk. You can even go on an adventure because you are secured. So that's the whole idea of dealing with human beings. You can take that risk with human beings. I can trust you. I'm not afraid. Break my heart. You know me. That kind of thing. So for me, that was really that was really what happened to me because I just realized that the idea is purpose. That's what God wants to get in singleness. It's purpose. So if you get the purpose and you just realize that every other thing just starts to make sense. So that was really it. I'm sweating right now. So
Wow.
it's very dramatic.